Going.
Hi, my name is Jill. I'm a big Sky Watershed Corps member, and today I'm going to talk to you about septic systems and how they affect water quality here in the Flathead Basin. So, in case you don't know, septic systems are small on-site wastewater treatment plants, basically, that are underground. And they're really common in rural areas where your home might not be able to be connected to the city sewer line, it's too far away, or it's too expensive to connect it. And so this is another option to treat your wastewater at home. Typically, if they're sited, installed, designed, and maintained correctly, they're environmentally sound. But if any of those things go wrong, they can really contribute to non-point source pollution. So here in the Flathead Basin, septic systems are a big problem and a big contributor to non-point source pollution. About 40 to 50% of people in the state of Montana are on a septic system, and also about half of the homes around Flathead Lake are on a septic system. And this is contributing to impairing some of our waters. So an impaired waterway means that it's not being able to sustain beneficial uses like drinking water or recreation because there's too many pollutants in that water. And right here in the Flathead Basin, Ashley Creek and Spring Creek are impaired for nutrient levels specifically. So we'll go through the components of a septic system, and then we'll talk about maintenance and how it affects water quality. So when you're in your home and you're using the sink or flushing the toilet, all of that water goes down into your inlet pipe first. And then it travels into this septic tank. So we'll take this off. Come a little closer so you can see this. So your septic tank is underground. Different people have different sizes based on the size of their home, how much water they're using. And it travels in, and then this baffle is just a vertical pipe that helps the water go in at a more slow pace so that you don't overload your system all at once. So there are bacteria in this tank, and they break down your waste into sludge and scum. So sludge is the kind of solid waste that sinks to the bottom, and scum is like grease and oil that floats at the top. And then you get your effluent, so that's the water. So then it travels to the next part of the tank, and eventually it goes through. Some people have this optional effluent filter. If you have that on your tank, it's really important to clean it every 6 months, but some people don't have it. It kind of has this crisscross look, so you'll be able to know if you have one or not. And then it goes out to the outlet pipe. So we'll go back over here. It travels, and again, some folks have this, some folks don't, but there's a distribution box. What that does is it pumps the water out at an even pace so it doesn't overload your drain field. And some folks, it might even pump it like up the hill. That's called a pumping chamber, because up the hill might be like a better area for soil. The soils up there might be more able to collect that water and treat it better. Or it might be further away from water, for example, like a lake. So then the last step in the process is that the water goes out to the drain field, and it percolates through these little holes in the pipes into the soil, and the soil further treats your wastewater. So unfortunately, soil, some soil is really permeable and really good for treating the wastewater, and sometimes it's not as good, depending on how hard it is, how cobbly. And usually it can only treat about 20 to 60% of the nitrogen. So nutrient waste that's the main pollutant that comes from septic systems, and that can have a really big impact on water quality because it can cause algal blooms if there's too much nitrogen or phosphorus. So a little bit of algae is okay, it's just a plant, but when it goes crazy, that takes a lot of oxygen out of the water, which can kill or harm fish and then disrupt the whole food web. Some algal blooms can also be harmful. They can produce toxins that are bad for people and can cause people to become ill if they come in contact with them. And then it also just makes it really hard to recreate, to swim and kayak through these dense algae blooms. So we have a picture here of an algal bloom on Salmon Lake in the Swan Valley from last year. And that is credited to Jeff Harris and the Clearwater Resource Council. And that algae bloom is really, really big and really gross. Some other consequences from pollution is that, nitrogen can also cause blue baby syndrome, so it impacts the hemoglobin function of infants if it gets into their bloodstream, if you drink water that has too high nutrient levels in it. And then, the other big impact is that pathogens can be in your wastewater. So viruses and E. coli can cause illness. In the 1990s, there was an outbreak of gastroenteritis in Flathead County because of wastewater from septic systems. So those are kind of the environmental impacts. And then there's also just impacts on your own lifestyle at home. So if you don't properly maintain your septic system, which means like pumping it every 3 to 5 years, because this sludge will build up and eventually it has nowhere to go. If you don't pump it out, it'll back up into your pipes, and that's just really gross. It can also cause your whole system to fail and need to be replaced, which can cost up to $7,000 as opposed to about $300 for a pumping. So yeah, and then in terms of maintenance, I mentioned the pumping, but there's some other things you can do around your home and outside your home to make sure you take the best care of your septic system to prevent as much pollution as possible and to prevent those backups. And that is making sure that anything you put in the toilet is basically just human waste and toilet paper, as well as the sink too. So you don't want to put any chemicals like bleach or paint down the sink or toilet. You don't want to use it as a trash can. You don't want to put coffee grounds down your sink. And you don't want to put any cooking grease or oil or feminine products, anything like that. You want to keep your tank clean and safe. Also, you might have heard, but it's actually a myth, that you can put like yeast or chemical additives that are specially designed and sold to you to go into your septic tank. Your septic tank does not need those things. The bacteria are working on their own, and those things can actually harm them and disrupt the whole process. So yeah, that is everything on how your tank works, and I'll just show you really quickly. This last photo is kind of in action, showing that septic pollution is a thing. So in 2007, Dr. Richard Howard with the Flathead Biological Station did a study with septic dye. So they put a dye down a toilet in a system that they suspected was not working well, and they found that the dye, if you can see, this was near McDonald Lake in Glacier Park, came out into the river. You can see it's bright red there, and into the lake, which confirmed that septic leachate was coming out of their septic system. So these are real issues in the Flathead Basin, and we hope that after hearing this video, you'll do the proper maintenance needed to keep our waters clean. Thanks so much.